Welcome everyone to Rethinking Your Listing Presentation with Denise Lones. I'm Shauna Knapp, CEO of the Lones Group, and today Denise is going to be covering how your listing presentation needs to change to better meet the needs of today's seller, because today's seller is different than yesterday's seller. Denise is a former top producing agent in a very competitive market and learned very early in her career how to give herself an edge at the listing presentation if she wanted to use her time efficiently by working with sellers and servicing more listings. Because the market is constantly changing, the material that Denise is going to be presenting today is reflective of how you need to be presenting your services and selling system to a tech and information savvy public. So very different than in years past. And if you're wondering how you could possibly implement all the tools that we're going to be sharing with you today, we're going to have some time to cover that at the end as well. So Denise, your screen looks great. I'm going to go ahead and turn the presentation over to you.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining me. I would say that today's webinar is probably one of the most important topics that we are facing today in real estate, and that is this whole issue around sellers and listing presentations and how do you walk in and win, especially when there is so much competition out there. And I think the first thing I want to discuss is, when you're out there in a market that we have been in the last few years, it is just imperative and crucial that you really think about really looking at your business another way and asking yourself how much time you want to spend with every single transaction you do. And the reason why I'm encouraging agents today to really look at their listing presentation and their seller services and their seller processes is because the bottom line is that it is easier in real estate to control your time and your income and the regularity and predictability of that income when you work with sellers. With buyers, it's very difficult because with buyers, there is no guarantee of having a transaction come to close because there's no guarantee you will win if you are in a market area where there is a lot of competition and you're competing against a lot of buyers. The other thing is that the average buyer today is taking upwards of 68 hours to work with. On average, the average buyer is taking 68 hours. And on average, the average seller takes 29 hours, 28 to 29. That being said, and that's simply because it's a lot of time, energy, and work to be out looking at all those houses. And especially when there's so much competition, it's also a real pull on your schedule because it's not like you can just sit down and plan the perfect tour. You could be sitting at your desk and a house will pop up that just came on the market and you've got to get on the phone and rally those buyers. And it's a lot of work. And this presentation is not to encourage you not to work with buyers. It's a presentation to encourage you to really relook at how you operate your business. And in a strong real estate agent's business today, the smart agents are really focusing on getting their listing presentation together and their lead generation around getting listings, because that is just where the industry is going and that's where the control is. So the other thing is that you have to really think about how your listing presentation is today versus yesterday or 5 years ago. Now, today's client is way different than the client of yesteryear, and that's because today's client is way more educated. And an educated client is a client that is they're already armed with information. They have information. They know a lot about what's out there. They know what they're competing against in terms of other homes. So it's not like the older 5-10 years ago when we would walk in and we were the suppliers of all the great information. So they looked at us like, wow, you've got this information. Today, they're looking to us to be what we should be, and that is the experts on marketing and promoting and exposing their home. They no longer are relying on us just for the information because they have a lot of that. Now, it's your job if you can walk in with extended information and you can show them how you're going to market your home. That's powerful, but you also have to change the way you present because today's client is asking you questions more today than they've ever asked you before. So the other thing you have to do is you have to reprioritize your agenda. And when you walk into any seller's home today, I will guarantee you that price, what they're going to get for their home, what the sale price is going to be, and commission will dominate the conversation. And it used to be that in the past we could sit down in front of a seller and talk about all the great marketing we did and a little bit about us, a little bit about our company, a little bit about how we work, a little bit about how we communicate, and wow, we built a great relationship with them and we feel we've got this connection. And then they look at us and ask us to list their home and we're all excited. Well, today it's a little different. Today they're shopping the competition. They're getting information online. They're emailing agents. They're getting answers online before they even get you in the home. So you better have a way to be able to reprioritize your agenda and be able to sit down and talk about price, and you better know what you're talking about. You better be able to show them more than what anyone else is going to show them. And you need to be able to address commission in a respectful way and in a way that makes sense to them. Because if somebody else is walking in and is saying, oh, I can do the same thing that everybody else can do, but I can do it for much less, it's going to create a huge problem. So the big elephant in the room is commission. And that's what's happening right now, is that you have to be prepared to talk about commission. You have to be able to also visually show why you are better than the competition. And that's really, really, really important. So if you have, let's say, for example, you have, and everybody has a standard commission that they have in their business. It's your right to have your commission right. But if you can't, in a way that's respectful and that makes sense to a seller, convey why you charge what you charge and what they get for it. And I think that the problem that a lot of agents have today is that they get insulted when somebody asks them to cut commission. And instead of getting insulted, I encourage agents to welcome the discussion and to encourage the discussion and to say, you know, I want to talk about commission. I'd like to talk about my fees. I want you to know what you get when you work with me. I want you to see the difference. I want you to understand why you're paying what you're paying, but I also want you to see that there's going to be a return on this commission investment. I want them to I want that seller to really understand what it is you do and how you do it. But the problem is when you get asked the question about, well, can you cut your commission? You have to understand that they've probably just been in another interview with another agent and they probably said, hey, can you cut your commission? And the agent's probably looked at them and said, oh, okay, great, sure, I'll take off 1%. So they're thinking as that agent leaves, well, you know, we liked him, but, you know, we have this other person that kind of sends us mail all the time and that we kind of have heard is really good and we want to talk to her. And then she walks in the door and she gets hit with the, well, hey, can you do it for 1% less? And you need to be able to articulate why you charge what you charge and why, even though somebody may be offering a 1% commission reduction, that it's all relative. And in the end, what really matters is what they're going to get in their pocket, in their what their bottom line is what's most important. And being able to sell a home for top dollar is what matters. And being able to expose that home to a market and do the marketing that's required, or doing the great photography or the video, or whatever those things are that you do. But the thing about sellers you have to understand is that sellers are just like you. They're just people. And they are visual people. And if you are not doing a visual listing presentation today and you're relying on just walking in with a more technical CMA and you don't have a way to visually wow them, you are going to lose them as a client. So I want you to imagine, let's look at both of these agents. Both of them have good name recognition. Both of these agents are from Brand X Real Estate. They both have approximately the same listing presentation plan, but the agent on the left maybe offers some special touring, maybe Matterport touring. It's just a touring product out there, and the agent on the right offers free staging. Now in this particular case, you know, if the seller prefers a more technical Matterport type tour experience, they might get more excited about the agent on the left. If the agent or if the seller gets a little bit more excited about someone doing staging, than the agent on the right. The other problem is, what if they don't like the idea of staging and they don't want anything in their home being touched? And what you do is it starts to get very much, you're losing a listing maybe because of this one special thing you think is so special, or you're losing a listing because you're not providing enough. Both are using their company materials exclusively in their listing presentation, so they're both fairly generic. So the question is, who would you hire? It would probably come down to personality, and it would probably come down to who you liked better. The problem with running a business just based on personality and who likes you better is that you're going to walk into a listing presentation with somebody that you don't naturally connect with. And if you don't connect with them naturally just because of personality, you can still win them over and connect with them based on what you offer, what you do, what your business model is, what services you provide, and what you can do for them. The bottom line is your job when you walk into a listing is to show people, this is what I can do for you. This is why you should choose me. This is how I'm a benefit to you. That's the power of having a strong listing presentation. The other problem with just doing this based on, when we look at this particular, these two agents' problem is that when you do not have a strong, compelling advantage, and it's kind of like, well, do I like her better or do I like this person better? They both are kind of the same. One, I get this Matterport tour. The other one, I get free staging. Well, they're okay. Well, let's see. Let's look at price. Well, agent on the left, I get the Matterport tour, and she's going to come down and cut her commission by 1%. And this is a $500,000 home, and that's going to save us $5,000. So the problem that you have as an agent walking into any presentation where another agent has cut their commission by, let's say, 1% on a $500,000 home is that seller's already looking at you like, you're going to naturally cost me $5,000. And what I want you to do in your job is to be able to overcome that and show people that they will get much better value. They're going to get more at the end of the day. They're going to have more in their pocket, and the bottom line for them is going to be more money. So the traditional agent right now shows up and they have, let's say, their home listing system, which may consist of a flyer and a just listed card and maybe a home book and special feature cards. When you're just talking about something versus visually showing it, people today are visual. 80% of our population is visual. That when you say something like, I prepare a home book for your property, well, that sounds good, but when you visually show it, so it's really, really important in your listing presentation, everything that you show, everything that you present, it should have a cohesive feel, something that is your brand, that matches what you're trying to convey as an agent, that gives them a feeling like there is a cohesiveness and a sense of organization. Everything needs to have that. The tools that you cannot be without in today's competitive marketplace, and the tools that you have got to have in order to win, especially in today's crazy market and very competitive market, there's a number of them, but we're going to start first with market stats and additional pricing information. You cannot just walk in today with the traditional CMA, because the problem is that the faster the market is, the more difficult the market is, the more competitive the market is. It's so important that you have something to showcase and to show and give them more information. So with the market moving very fast, what happens is the seller is more likely to choose an agent that has a CMA that simply supports the highest price. So if you are like every other agent and everyone's just competing based on this traditional CMA, then it's really a bidding war. All that happens is you walk in and someone else walks in, you're competing, and oftentimes the seller is left with only the ability to make a decision based on, who's the most enthusiastic about my property? Who is the one that, has the highest price? This CMA says my house is worth more. And they may know in their gut it's not, but there's always that sense of hope, well, maybe they know something I don't. Now, if you had the lowest CMA, they would definitely turn around and go, well, this agent doesn't know what they're talking about. But the minute anybody walks in with the highest price, they wonder, what do they know? This is positive. So this is where you have to be careful. You have to be able to provide additional proof and raise doubt in the mind of the seller in terms of what is different or better about this agent, meaning you. You have to be able to give them factual information, you have to provide proof, and you have to do it in a manner that for them it makes sense to them. Let me give you an example of visual. If you're going to talk to somebody about median sale prices, let's say this agent in Seattle is going on a listing presentation and they want to at least address the issue of the median sale price in this area is X, Y, or Z. One of the reasons why it's so important to be visual is because when you first go in, for example, let's say the Seattle market, I will promise you that every seller in the Seattle marketplace believes that the median sale price is rising like a rocket, and there's absolutely no way it's going to ever come down because sellers are optimistic. If I talk about the median sales price and I say the median sale price right now in the Seattle area is approximately $708,000, let's say that was the number, okay? if I'm able to show them a document that visually shows it, because the median sales price peaked a little bit earlier and has started to come down just a little bit, what it does is it just takes a little bit of that rocket fuel away from them, where they can look at this and go, okay, this is interesting. Yeah, there's been a steady rise. We can see that since 2014, and it's really been pretty consistent right up to 2017, but the median sales price has dropped a little bit. Wow, I thought it was like a rocket going straight to the moon, but maybe I'm not. Maybe this is some interesting information. And this is why it's so important for you to always provide information. Now, if it was accurate that the median sales price was continuing to go up, then the seller needs to see that as well. Because again, if prices are going up and that seller deserves the rocket fuel, then you should be there, the one supplying it for him. Your job is to supply the facts and to be visual with it. So I think it's very important when you are in front of a seller to sit down and say, I want to show you something about the market. Now, when we talk about, and when we're at a listing presentation, a lot of times we're talking about their house, their neighborhood. It's very important to include, let me talk a little bit about the market. I wanted to show you what's going on generally in our marketplace, because marketplaces are specific, but then the media is very general. So sometimes they can be hearing, oh, the market in Seattle is it's shooting to the moon. It's like a rocket on fire. However, the more accurate part might be that maybe their area isn't. And this is where what I would also take for this person is I would give them, in addition to the Seattle median sales price, I would pull the median sales price in their area as well. So just having more information. The other thing that's really important is to show them, they'll always show the relationship between actives and pendings in their marketplace. And the reason that that is so important is because if you look at this particular slide, what you're going to notice is that whenever the lines get very close together, that is when sellers get the most money. That's a hot market. The further the lines go apart, that obviously changes that market significantly, because you're going to have more listings to less pendings, and whenever you have more listings and less pendings, that gap gets bigger. For example, if you look at the beginning of the data on this particular chart, you'll see that in approximately July of 2014, there's a pretty big gap. You can see that there was a lot of listings versus pendings. Well, that means that the advantage is not to the seller, it's to the buyer. A lot of opportunity for buyer. Then we come into January of 2015, and all of a sudden, we see that our pending numbers overtook our listing numbers, and you see another big gap, but those are all pendings, which means that there's a big advantage there to the sellers. And the reason this is important, because it shows the client that you are tracking the market over time. And I think it's really important as part of your listing presentation that you have a part of it that really fully addresses what's going on in the marketplace. The next thing that's critical is to show people what's happening with inventory, and what's happening with inventory in terms of inventory that's priced well and inventory that is aging. This particular chart shows in a particular marketplace the total number of listings that are actually in a 0 to 14 days day on market number. So by looking at this chart, I can see that about a third of the market, 0 to 14 days, is and possibly could be priced very, very well, and a third of the market could go very, very quickly. I also look at the 61 days and longer, and I see that 32% of that market, again, almost a third, is already 60 days old. So those listings are probably overpriced. Those listings have not been scooped up by buyers. So there could be opportunity for buyers who are willing to negotiate. But if I'm sitting down with a seller, it's my job to convey to them that we have to price this right. We want to be on the marketplace, and we want to be part of that 0 to 14 day category that comes on the market and gets scooped up. So being able to show days on market and having, again, a discussion about the market is critically important. The next set of props and tools that you have to have on your listing, in your listing presentation, is something that will showcase your listing systems. What do you do? What does that look like? You have to have a point of difference. If you're sitting down with someone and you don't have a point of difference, you don't have a system, and you don't have visual impact, they will not remember you. Visual impact guarantees a memory marker in the client's mind. And people have always said to me, because I've been very big on branding, that's how I built my business. That's how, when I started in the business and I didn't sell anything in my first 6 months, I realized that I was invisible. Nobody noticed me. I was one of many, and there was nothing to remember. In my second 6 months, boy, I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm going to get a brand. I'm going to walk into a listing presentation and they're going to remember me. And I worked with a graphic designer. I sat down and created a system. I didn't even have a system when I started, but my second 6 months, I sold 22 homes, and I sold those homes because I was able to walk into a seller, and by the time I left, I was memorable. They remembered something that I had shown them that resonated with them, that connected with them, that was something that they felt would benefit them. You have to have and be able to visually show a point of difference. So this is showing a point of difference. I want to give you an example of a visual listing presentation. If I'm in front of a seller, I want to be able to sit down. I want to say to them, I believe that marketing is critically important. I believe that marketing is the most important tool that we have to get as many people interested in coming to see your home. If I can get them lined up to see your home will sell them. The home will get them to write an offer. But I have to get them here. The most important job of any real estate agent is to get people to your home. And you cannot rely just on the MLS anymore. You have to be able to rely on social media. You have to be able to rely on database marketing. You have to be able to rely on your online media presence. You have to go above and beyond. So in this case, I'd be able to sit down with the seller and I'd be able to say, when I list your property, here's some of the things that I will be doing for you in terms of print marketing. I don't just do a traditional one-page flyer. I do a beautiful 4-page or multi-page flyer with a large, beautiful, high-definition photography. I create an in-depth home book, and by the way, here's a small sample of it. I also have brought the full sample of it. I want people to touch, feel, look at, and visually get excited and stimulated about what you're about to show them. The next thing I want to be able to do is visually talk about the online marketing. And again, this is on a beautiful portfolio board by being able to walk in like an artist. You walk in, and real estate is an art. Selling a home is an art. And that's what you need to get and convey to your sellers. And I would be saying to my potential sellers, selling real estate is an art. There's an art to selling it. There's a science to selling it. And the science of it is you have to know your numbers. You have to know your product. You have to know your data. The art of it is your home is beautiful. We have to present it beautifully. We have to photograph it well. All of that photography and all of those marketing things that we do have to end up online. And also with my social media, I have to make sure that your home is presented well there. So I want you to be able to show them that their home is listed on your beautiful custom website. It's listed on the company website that you work with. It's also syndicated to a whole bunch of different listings, that you also are talking about it on Twitter and Facebook, and that you have videos on YouTube. Today's agent, if you want to be competitive, you have to really put the effort and energy into creating a phenomenal listing presentation system. The next thing I do is I want to talk about the power of really incredible, unbeatable high-def photography and why it's important, why it's critical, and why that's going to sell your house and why I do it. And as an agent, why I don't cut my commission. I can't cut my commission because I'm investing a lot of those commission funds back into their home. And you see, the thing that you have to understand is that when people talk commission and fees, they make out like those commission and fees are just going into your little bank account and you're walking away all happy ho-ho. But the reality is, an agent that is truly doing their job, you need those commission dollars because you have to invest in the marketing tools required to be able to sell the home and get top dollar for the home. The other thing that is happening today, and you have to really think about this, are the tools that are out there to help you help your seller get top dollar. If you're not doing drone video and drone photography, and you're selling luxury homes, or you're selling homes on water, or you're selling unique homes, or you're selling a home that sometimes is better marketed from above than within, you have to do drone photography. And people always say to me, what's the price point for drone photography? And I say, it's not about the price point, it's about the situation. If the home can be better marketed visually from above and around than from within, then it is critical you do this. And a great example of this is that one of my clients had this beautiful, cute little cottage property on the market for probably 1.5 years. And this property was not selling. And I said to her, and so she asked me to go and look at it to find out what's wrong with it. And this was a number of years ago, and this is just when drone photography was coming out. And I went and visited the home and had a look at it. And as soon as I walked in the property, I knew the problem. The problem was this property it was a fairly unique property, but the minute you opened the back door of the property, you could not convey just with a photograph what you would experience out in the garden. You would not, you couldn't convey it with all the photos in the world. However, when she got a drone videographer to do a drone video of it, all of a sudden the garden came to life, the exterior came to life, and outside space is a powerful thing. And I said to her, change all your photos, sell it from the outside in. So when she was able to do that, immediately the property sold. Was that a coincidence? I don't think so. Sometimes a property is better marketed from outside or above than it is from within, and that's how you decide whether or not you need a drone video. Now, I'm not saying you need one in every property, but I'm saying you better have a relationship with a licensed drone photographer that is licensed to do drone photography, not just somebody that's doing it for fun. I want someone that's licensed because they understand, and they understand the rules of doing it, and that's very important as well, because there's also liability if somebody that you hire to do drone photography crashes their drone video into the roof of a neighbor or damages a neighbor's property. You don't want that. You want somebody that's licensed, insured, and all of that. So drone photography. Also, professional videography in terms of showcasing the home, or if you want to do something like Matterport. It doesn't matter what you're doing, it's how you're presenting it so that the seller gets a visual idea of what that looks like. The other thing is, if you're going to do, and you've done a drone video for someone else, being able to sit down with the seller and say, I really think that your property has got some special features that I really cannot convey just with traditional photography. And I had another property like that, same situation. You've got such a beautiful backyard and you're really close to such an incredible lake, and I want to showcase that. Let me show you what I did for another client. Now you visually showed them with boards, but now you can take out your tablet and then say, let me show you that video. And I always tell people, be very careful about just doing your presentation one-dimensionally, where all you're doing is you're showing them something on a tablet. People like to touch and feel and look at, and that's why having a really powerful visual presentation is so important. The other thing that's really, really important today is to have a brochure for your sellers, something that shows people who you are, what you do, what's in it for them. What do I get when I hire you as an agent? People want that question answered. You also want something that's visually very, very impactful that gets left behind when you leave. Also, if somebody calls you on the phone and says, I'm just kind of checking out agents, haven't made any decision yet, just want to know if you specialize in this area, and then I'll get back to you. I want to be able to say, I absolutely specialize in this area. Also, let me email you a PDF of my seller brochure so you can at least get an idea of some of the really exciting marketing I'm doing. What that does is immediately it allows you to stand out against anyone else that they've contacted on the phone. So again, it's a point of difference, and that's what you're doing. All you're doing is you're raising doubt and all of your for your seller, you're raising that doubt, and you want them to think that your marketing abilities are better. You want to stand out, and if you want to stand out today, you have to get visual. This is an example of a seller's brochure. So if you, for example, contacted this agent, she'd be able to say to you, I specialize in selling luxury properties in the Florida Keys. I would love to help you, and I'm going to send you over my seller's brochure, and then this is what you would get. All of a sudden, you open this up and you go, wow, oh, she does staging. Look at her photographer. She does high-def video. Oh, print marketing. Oh, she does drone photography, online marketing, social media. Oh, my God, there's a recommendation in there. What else do I want? I guarantee you're going to stand out. That's super, super important. The other thing you have to do, and it is a tool, and it's something you have to do, is you have to be able to show your experience and show your expertise, and do that in the way of a book or something visual. So the reason why this is so important is because it proves that you have a record of success. It proves that you've maybe had other challenges with other listings, and that you're not just a real estate agent that sells properties, but you're a real estate agent that is a problem solver, and you like challenges. You overcome challenges with other listings or problems with listings. Every listing is going to have some form of, I'd say, the best benefit and then a challenge that listing might have. Sometimes it's simply just price. Other times you have to overcome something. Maybe it's a bit of an odd floor plan. How do you overcome that? Well, sometimes you overcome that by price. Also, it's really important with this book, you're able to sort and show them based on neighborhoods and price points and types of homes, your improvement track record. So here's an example of that. So when Anna Maria shows up for the listing presentation, she's able to show them, oh, look at some of my other properties. And she's done a story and a problem-solving showcase on all these properties. What she said is, okay, here's this property, for example, on East Lake. It sold in April of 2016, or whatever the date is, and here were the results. We listed it at $499, we sold it at $550, we had 10 offers, it sold for 10% above list price. Here was the challenge. It was a vacant condo and it needed to feel warm. So what did I do to maximize the search? What did I do to do the marketing and preparation? What did I do? And then what was the result from my client? If you're not doing a focused recap summary of every home that you're selling and what you did, what the results were, what the challenges, how you overcame it, and you're not putting this together in a book that you can take with you to every listing, you are missing out on one of the most powerful things that you can take on a listing presentation with you. The other thing you need to be tracking is you need to be able to track your stats. First of all, you should be like a baseball player. You should be like a football player. You should know what your stats are. You should know what your batting average is. You should know what your handicap is in golf. If you have a handicap, you should know these things, because if you're going up against someone who is automatically pulling out their lower commission card, you have to be able to show mathematically why it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they're offering you a 1% commission. And yes, I understand it's a $500,000 home, and I get it. It sounds like it looks good. It sounds like you're saving $5,000, and of course, that is a phenomenal amount of money. Let me show you why you don't even have to worry about that with me. And that's where you're about to show them your stats. And this is where you're going to go into the MLS, and you are going to now go and visually put together and show them how you stack up against someone else. So, for example, if and you go into your MLS and you can find this number out. And what I want you to be able to say is that when a property is listed, if a property is listed for $100,000 and that property sells for $100,000, it sold for 100% of list price. If it sells for $106,000, it sold for 6% above list price. In our marketplace right now, and this is what you're going to explain to the seller, the average agent has a list to sale price ratio of 102.8%. Mine is 106.2%. How that translates out, and then what you're going to be able to do is, if you then take that information and show them your list to sale price ratio, the median sale price, the median days on market, and be able to say that my homes sell on average 3 days quicker, or I've done this many transactions, or my median price per square foot. Now, the one stat that I would focus on, if you took everything out of this mix and just said, let's talk about the list to sale price ratio, because that really is important when we talk about commission. Right now, you've had somebody, let's say, for example, that has offered to reduce your commission. If you look at the example below at the bottom of the screen, what you'll notice is that if based on the agent is operating a business at 106.2%. If they had a home and that home was marketed and the list price was $550,000, if we base it on these numbers, the sale price on the list to sales price ratio with the me agent would be $584,000. With the other agent would be $565,000. So if we look at the sale price based on price per square foot and the average between the two prices, and if we look at the difference, and also we look at the commission based on that average sale price is going to be at 6%, $34,000. Let's say this other agent is offered 4%. Okay, and they are really cutting now. And now it shows $22,000. Well, the traditional thought would be from a seller to go, wow, it's going to cost me $12,000 more to work with this agent, but it really doesn't, because it's all relative and it's based on what your results are. And based on what we're looking at here, that seller is still going to end up with $10,000 more. And of course, you've got to sit down and work out your numbers. But remember, if you don't track your numbers, you're not going to know your numbers. Agents that I have that are tracking their list to sales price ratio on a regular basis are the agents that they know what their numbers are, they track their numbers, they are aware of when they list a property, they're aware of what that property is selling for, they talk about price, they care about price, they're more aware of it because those are numbers that they're tracking. So the next question people always ask me is, where do I start? What do I do? And here's what I tell agents. First of all, it is critical that moving forward in today's marketplace that you've got to prepare yourself to be a strong listing agent. When you get those listings and when you get to that point where you are going to want to, be able to win, it's really, really important that you walk in prepared. And usually I come across a couple of different agents, and this is usually where people lie. And let's look, for example, at agent number one. If you're an agent who is losing to agents that have a technical edge, let's say you've been in the business for a while, you're a good agent, you know what you're doing, your client care is phenomenal, you take care of your clients, you are a great agent, but all of a sudden you walk into a listing presentation and all those years of experience and expertise and negotiating skills and client care skills don't matter because another agent has walked in, is a little bit more technical, is wowing them a little bit more, and they're winning. And that's a problem for you. And you have to be able to walk in and wow just as much as your competition. Then let's imagine you're the agent who you lack a little bit of confidence because you don't have a system and you're walking in and you're a little bit nervous, so you feel compelled to cut commission. And a lot of times agents that lack confidence, agents that lack the ability to communicate what they do well, those are the agents that I find, they find that it's easy to just say, oh, and by the way, I will cut my commission for you by 1%. And then they see the seller light up like a Christmas tree. So what happens is that instills in their brain that, oh, that worked once. And one thing I've noticed by analyzing brokerages' commission sheets is that once an agent cuts commission, they start cutting commission on every deal. And that's your profit. That is your retirement. That is your vacation. That is your kids' college. You cannot survive in a business where you are just cutting commission. You're naturally cutting commission because you don't know what else to do. And I always tell people that contact me and say, well, I'm thinking about getting some listing presentation tools, or I'm thinking about doing branding, but oh, it's an investment. I've got to spend money. Do you know that you spend money every time you leave money on the table? Every time you cut commission. If you cut commission by 1% on a $500,000 property, that's $5,000. But if you do it 10 times a year, that's $50,000. And I tell agents there's a better way. I don't want any of my clients, any of the agents that we work with ever to cut commission. You don't have to. By the time you are armed with great tools and great systems and you understand what your point of difference is, you should never have to cut commission again. Now, you're going to get asked to, but you're going to be able to easily overcome that. The third type of agent out there is that agent that has been relying a lot on those referrals, whether that be from their database, whether that be from people that they know or their sphere of influence or their past clients, and all of a sudden you're just noticing, I'm not getting as many referrals anymore. What's going on? What's happening? And the reason you're not getting as many referrals is because our clients are getting more educated. And what happens is the more educated that they get, oftentimes when they're out for, let's say they're out for dinner or they're with friends and a friend of a friend is, oh, I sell real estate. And before you know it, they're talking and communicating and they make it easier. They just make it easier to talk to them, and people will take the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is, oh, you can help me right now and I don't have to go and search out my agent. What I always tell people is you want to be memorable. To be memorable, you need to be visual. When you're visual, people will find you. They will remember you that there was some point of difference there. And that's why whether you are working in a particular niche market, whether you are working in a particular area, whatever you do, it all starts with having a phenomenal brand, having your systems in order, having tools, and combining all those together. But today's agent, I really want to encourage you guys to be thinking that you do not have to lose any more listings. I always tell people to make a decision about what your service is going to look like. Every business at one point opened its doors and had their first customer, right? And that's why it's important to sit down. I always tell people, know what you're going to do when a seller hires you. Have your marketing in place. Know what you're going to do for social media. Know what you're going to do when you take a listing, so that even if you can't talk specifically, and the only thing that would be missing from your presentation is, oh, here's my average list to sell price ratio, because you don't have one, you can still wow them with all those other tools. That's why I tell people it is so important to have the visual, because can you imagine walking into a seller's home today and all you have is a CMA and the ability to say, well, it's going to go in the MLS, I'm going to put up a sign, I'll do a tour, I'll do an open house. That's not good enough anymore. And we have to invest in our businesses in order to win those listings. So if you're brand new, if you haven't had any wins, this is your time to get those wins, but you've got to put the time and effort and energy into really solidifying what and deciding on what is it going to look like when I list a home. So that's why it's important to really think about these things before you ever walk into a seller's door.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Denise, for all of your great insight and wisdom today. And again, if you are listening on this webinar and think you'd like to learn a little bit more about how we can help you, please reach out. The number is right there on the screen, or you can send us an email and we'd be happy to set up a time to chat with you and help you take your listing presentation to the next level. Thank you all for joining us for Rethinking Your Listing Presentation, and we hope to see you again on a future webinar.